Today we are going to go on a radically Colorado adventure, and I am going to share some of the history of one of my favorite neighborhoods, Denver West Highlands. Now, I'm going to do a whole series here on the Highlands, but we're breaking it into 4 parts because there is so much history that we need to go over. So if you're liking what you see here, make sure to subscribe to us because our other 3 videos will be coming out soon. But today we're going to cover the West Highland neighborhood, south of 32nd, west of Federal, over to Sheridan, because there's so much to cover. There's so many historic districts in just this area and a commercial district just in this area. So in order to do this neighborhood, which was its own town at a certain point, justice, we're breaking this into 4 parts, and then we'll publish one long form full documentary on this neighborhood. Before we get going, I have to mention, if you're thinking about buying, selling, or investing in Colorado, we're your go-to resource. I own a real estate brokerage, Symbio, and we would love to help. We're walking the gate here, so I live on 29th, which is the technical southern end boundary of the Highlands itself. Past 29th, you get into the neighborhood Jefferson Park. We're gonna do another video on that, so if you're liking this, make sure to subscribe and we will get you all sorts of videos. So I'm walking towards Federal Boulevard, it's what it's called now. Let me turn it around here. And it was at certain points in history called the Boulevard or Boulevard F. And Federal was the OG street in the Highlands here. It was known for its mansions and its large trees. And this is like, so think of this as like America's first suburb, the 19th century suburbs of the United States. Highlands was based after a suburb in Illinois called Riverside, and it took its shape and its form from that. It's also known as the Scottish Highlands because of the Scottish influence at the beginning here. And that's why we see so many large Catholic churches on this side of town. Looking across here, that's North High School. So that's gonna be our boundary for this video, Federal Boulevard, Boulevard F, the Boulevard, when it was the Highlands. Super interesting history here. It was actually, the land was originally bought by the same guy who bought a lot of Denver at first, General Larimer. You probably recognize that from Larimer Square. He bought all of this land in hopes to build one of Denver's first suburbs to bring more prominence to the Denver metro. But in the late 1800s, the Highlands did annex itself to make itself a more marketable suburb. What I mean by that is, when we get a little bit farther up here, we'll be able to see the skyline of Denver really well. We sit above it, hence its name, the Highlands, and Scottish influence, the Scottish Highlands, of course. Before we get any farther, let's turn around here. And let's look at St. Dominic Catholic Church, which is going to be our first historical stop. Pardon my noise, I'm on Federal Boulevard, but we're here at our first historical stop, St. Dominic's Church, which is a Dominican Catholic church. Like I said, the Catholics had a large influence on this side of town, giving back to the community in so many ways, which continues until today. There's actually right behind us a spot where a bunch of priests still live. I run into them oftentimes chanting rosary in the morning. So a very peaceful presence here in the Highlands. And the home that we just walked by actually serves as a point of outreach for this neighborhood, giving to those less fortunate, still in the very spirit of Dominican way. And we've got Ruth here, our other tour guide, and we got Bela as well along with us today. St. Dominic Parish's history goes back to 1889 when Joseph T. Murphy celebrated the first Mass in a rented feed store at 25th and Decatur. The first church building, a 2-story brick structure at 25th and Grove, was completed within a year. The ground floor served as schoolrooms while the church occupied the second floor. In 1890, the Dominican Sisters opened a school right next door. As the parish grew, new construction kept pace, and that's when this larger Gothic-style stone church was built and it was dedicated in 1926, while the rectory was finished in 1923. The school actually stayed open until 1973, when it had to shut down due to declining enrollment and rising costs. All right, well, we got a little bit less noise. We're walking the boundary of today's video right along the Boulevard Federal, and we're headed towards Highlands Park. Okay, I'm on the corner of Federal and 32nd. This is where one of the OG stops came for the streetcars that made Highlands Park on the map, more so because it connected it easily to Denver, which is just down the hill from here. You can see the skyline right over there. So I did read that this has transformed. 32nd's kind of cut up by this park right now, but you can see this is where one of the big stops was, right here at Federal and 32nd, and we're gonna go to the next big stop as well. This is our boundary for today's first part of a 4-part series, 32nd, which cuts here on the south side of the park. You can see all these tall, imposing trees in this park, which have withstood the test of time. I've got to note as well that this park was a lot bigger on the historic maps, meaning it ran all the way into what is the Lower Highlands, which will be part 3 and 4 of this 4-part series that we're walking around right now. This is a beautiful community center with a library in it, large park, children's playground, and some really amazing structures around it. This area, while it's owned by Larimer in the late 1850s, doesn't really come into being until the 1880s. The most I could find in historic newspapers before that is they were selling some grapevines. So imagine this is a very agrarian place for Denverites to escape to in the hills just west of the Platte River. But in the 1880s, this place really starts to take off. The Highland Company starts to sell a lot of these lots. Famous names like J.H. Morrison. Yeah, the Morrison's son who founded Morrison were developing this area like F Street or the Boulevard, which we were just on. So we start to see lots sell, and for pretty good prices, $65 to $180, you could own a lot on this side of town, and it was marketed as Denver's best suburb. They struck really clean water over here, and you could have a nice big lot and escape that dirty, dirty city. We are at the corner of Green and 32nd, and this is what I was talking about. 32nd taking a different shape and a different form in the 20th century, mostly to route around Highlands Park and some new development that happened around here at that time. So we're cutting down Green Street, and we're cutting over to 32nd, where we're gonna head towards the second stop on the streetcar, which is 32nd and Lowell on our trip here. Did you notice on the old map too that Spear, which we just crossed, was called Lake? Well, that's because Highlands had a lake. It was filled in. It's where North High School is now. And now we're walking on 32nd to the second stop on the streetcar in Highland Square. A lot of people don't know this, but the Highlands was actually its own town, and so was Auraria. In 1885, it officially became the town of Highlands, but it was later annexed to Denver. We are here at the commercial epicenter, the next streetcar stop in the Highlands, Lowell and 32nd, which, like I said, is the main commercial drag in the West Highlands. Tons of really great shops here, restaurants here, Some of my favorites in this area are Trattoria Stella, Tacos Tequila Whiskey, but there are just so many more, Sassafras, etc. And then tons of local shopping as well, and some chains like Lululemon happening here due to the trendy nature of the West Highland. And this area was rough in the 80s and 90s, but with Denver's revitalization, it has become one of the most prominent neighborhoods in Denver. In the 1870s, a new idea began to shape American cities. Urban planning, not just for function, but for form and beauty and control. Inspired by movements in Chicago and New York, developers in Denver envisioned neighborhoods that curated not just homes, but a particular American branded lifestyle. By 1874, a group of financial heavyweights designed Highland Park, a middle-class enclave modeled after a romantic Scottish village, i.e. the Highlands. Their goal was to build a community of distinction, a Highland oasis above the hustle and smoke of industrial Denver. And here's a picture of Denver from the Highlands back then, so you can really get a sense of what they're feeling. The town of the Highlands took shape. It was formally incorporated, like we had mentioned, and its boundaries were from 38th down to 24th, and from Sheridan over to Zuni. It was founded by Owen Lefebvre, believed that this elevated land could offer a pure life, one free of the industrial grit found just across that dirty South Platte River. Their sentiment was made clear at the town's dedication, which read, "She is upon a high eminence, proudly overlooking her smoky neighbor, the city of Denver, her atmosphere untarnished by factory or smelter smoke, but as pure and fresh and sweet as the God of nature ever gave man." But utopias come with rules. By 1889, the town had adopted a strict set of ordinances to preserve its moral and physical character. Among them, this is a quote. "No person shall drive, toss, knock, or play ball, marbles, pitch pennies, quoit," don't even know what that is, "or fly any kites within the town of Highlands." I don't know what they had against kites. It seems pretty peaceful. And for good measure, "No person shall permit to run at large any chickens, ducks, geese, guinea hens, turkeys, rabbits, cows, horses, cattle, or other fowls." So this was like, I don't know, one of those Christian oases, the Great White Flight before the Great White Flight, I guess, so to speak. With that in mind, this neighborhood has a lot of churches because that was the type of culture that was really being built in the Highlands. The present building that we see here was opened in 1922 and was designed by architect Arthur S. Wilson and was constructed in 3 stages. The style of the building is simplified Gothic revival. The north front facade is symmetrical with crenellated 2-story square towers on each corner of the front. One neat little tidbit about the church is it actually was founded in a barn in 1892 in this very same location. It was known as Barrow's Barn, although it never actually served as a barn. It was a congregational gathering spot. So this congregation has been here for a long time, the First Methodist Episcopal Church of Highlands, Colorado, and it had 66 congregants. It's quite a few people for back then. And then they, soon outgrew the barn, and they built a church in 1896, which was replaced by the one that we're seeing here. As we walk into this section of the Highlands, there's a lot more early 20th century stuff going on here, like the church that we just passed, like this commercial building that's got a great pizza joint, Blue Pan Pizza, in it. And that is because the historic district that we're going to turn into, that is on the south side of 32nd here, Wolff Place Historic District, was an addition that was added around this time period. Like this home here on this corner is a perfect example of high style Queen Anne architecture. It was built in 18 92 and is one of these amazing corner lot homes on 30th here. Let's go to the West Highlands' biggest home, the Carter Mansion. Carter was a mining magnate. He had a lot of mines in Mexico, and he decided his hand at development here in the Wolff Place Historic District, and also built himself a house as well. Over 6,000 square feet, a 700 square foot carriage house, and a virtual botanic garden surrounds this place on almost 2/3 of an acre. This place is crazy and one of my favorite homes in Denver. Okay, we just walked one street over to Osceola, this home. On this side of 30th, these homes are a little bit older. We're right down from the Methodist church. Look at that. What I love about so many of these homes is they're preserved so well. Beautiful big lots. This Queen Anne home was owned by the late great Herman H. Heiser, who moved from Germany in 1836 and eventually settled in Denver, opening a leather goods store in the mountains, and did so well that he opened his own saddlery. Yes, Herman made saddles, and that's how Herman could live in such a large house. There's a lot wrong with this advertisement, but it's one of his. This area gets its namesake from Hiram G. Wolff, who owned a lot of the land around here that was subdivided into the Wolff Place Historic District. Here we walk by a beautiful Victorian. There are so many. Another beautiful corner lot constructed in 1891. The Wolff Street Historic District also has a lot of what we affectionately refer to in Denver as Denver squares, more popularly known as the American Four Square style of architecture. That one is decorated with some classical revival elements. You can see right across the street is the Mullen House, which has been a charity in this area that was a staple of the West Highlands, and unfortunately is no longer occupied right now. The Catholic Church is apparently working with the city of Denver to figure out a use for this that would be as charitable and hospitable as the nursing home, the Mullen House, that stood here for over a century. In 1911, John Kernan Mullen, an Irish-American flour magnate and devout Catholic, alongside his wife, Catherine Smith Mullen, envisioned a sanctuary for the elderly poor. Their commitment materialized with the purchase of a 10-acre tract at 3629 West 29th Avenue in 1913. By 1916, construction commenced on a 4-story brick edifice designed to serve as a haven for the aged. The following year, 5 Little Sisters of the Poor arrived from France to oversee the home's operations. On March 28, 1918, the Mullen Home welcomed its first resident, marking the beginning of over a century of compassionate care. Throughout its history, the Mullen Home underwent significant developments to better serve its residents. In 1975, 2 new wings were added, providing assisted living and intermediate nursing care. By 1980, portions of the original structure were converted into apartments for low-income seniors, ensuring a continuum of care within the community. After 105 years of dedicated service, the Little Sisters of the Poor announced the closure of the Mullen Home in 2022. The head nun at that time, she actually grew up in this area, and I read an article where obviously this was very emotional for her. Looking ahead, the Archdiocese has unveiled plans to transform the site into a comprehensive senior living community. The redevelopment will preserve historic elements, including the chapel, while introducing independent living apartments, memory care units, and assisted living facilities. I've heard this, and then I've heard that they could be in works with Denver as well to do something. So looking forward to seeing what this shapes up to be. I'm standing here at one of the front gates of the Mullen House, which is no longer open for business. This area, it's very much in the shadow of this, which is over a full block several acres, a chapel, 2 nursing homes, one older, one newer addition. Super excited to see what Denver and the Catholic Church decide to do with this place. If you want to live on one of these beautiful corner lots, this one is for sale at $3.65 million, 5,717 square feet, and over a 1/4 acre of yard space. This West Highland gem can be yours. We don't see renovations done like this very often. This one was done by Isaac Slade, who is the lead singer of The Fray, who lived here for over a decade and sold it back in 2021. This is back for sale, and this one can be yours. Reminder, I'm in real estate, so if you want to check this out, I would love to see this home with you. This home was designed by the architect William Lang, who did a lot of homes here in Denver, including the Molly Brown House, the Bailey House, St. Mark's Parish Church, Castle Marne, and so many more. Now we walk into the Allen M. Ghost Historic District. And this is where you see 19th century home building at its finest, in my opinion. They just don't do it like this anymore. Quiet, tree-lined streets, tons of Victorian builds with all sorts of character. And it's quiet, even though we're in a very urban area. The area was platted by Allen M. Ghost in 1887, and the lot sold really quickly. This is because the area was growing so fast, and a lot of Denverites wanted to get over to this area. This is reflective, really, of how streetcar suburbs started to become a thing, and people wanted to get out of the sticks and get their family to a nice, clean place. Several pretty famous people in Denver history lived here. Howard C. Maloney, George W. Olinger, who we're gonna explore a lot in one of these next series because he owned one of the biggest mortuaries and cemeteries in the Denver area, are just a couple of the famous residents in this small historic district. The majority of the residences that were built during the building boom of the late 19th century are Queen Anne, which is what you see mostly here. Over 33% of the houses in this district are this style, and most of them that were built in the 19th century are the ones that were built in the early 20th century are majority bungalow houses with arts and crafts details. Over 16% are that in this district, and other residences in the district embody architectural characteristics of Edwardian, Foursquare, which is that Denver Square we talked about, and classic cottage types, which we're going to walk by at the end of this historic district. There are some really cute homes here. The Ghost Historic District is distinctive from the surrounding neighborhoods and serves as a familiar and orienting visual feature of the city and the West Highland neighborhood. The residential design, uniform setbacks, and landscape features provide a visual gateway into the district. The houses along the southern boundary are particularly distinctive as the houses are sited high on the slope away from the sidewalk, whereas the houses across the street sit at street level. The Ghost Historic District is an easily identifiable, cohesive, and distinctive area. Ghost seems to have done pretty well for himself. This was his office where he did his real estate development out of in downtown Denver. Howard Maloney, who lived in this neighborhood, actually named a lot of the streets in Denver. Howard Maloney had a history. He spent a lot of his life with the Dakota Indians, being a translator between them and the Western inhabitants. He took a job in Denver at the Denver Union Water Company, and the problem is they kept getting complaints, and everyone in Denver at that time had the ability to just name the street what they wanted, so there was no uniformity, and they could never locate where things and the complaints were coming from very easily. So, Maloney took it on himself to rename the streets, and given his history with the Native Americans, that's why we see a lot of great Native American street names here. Ghost was apparently quite the public figure in Denver as well, making the media on several occasions. Of course, they refer to where his building's at as the Ghost Block. A little bit haunted. The Denver media had fun with his last name, using it as puns in many cases, especially when he died, which I think is a little bit morbid. He planned to give 75% of his estate to charity, but his daughter sued and she got all of it in court. So, a little bit of greed at the end. Ghost constantly sued people for swindling him. People apparently took advantage of the real estate contractors at this time, promising to deliver goods or services that just never got delivered. He did build some really good homes though, and I couldn't speed this up because these cottages and Edwardians, they're just so cute. That way you can see 29th, which is what we're walking to, this video's southern boundary. We've got 2 more stops on today's historic tour. I am standing in front of another historical beacon in West Highland neighborhood, which is now the sanctuary, but it has quite the historical significance. This church holds incredible architectural significance, designed by architect Burnham F. Hoyt and Merrill H. Hoyt of the firm Hoyt and Hoyt. These are the same people that designed Red Rocks Amphitheater, the Central Library, so many mansions here in Denver, and a lot of buildings. This one is in the Italian Renaissance style, and I really thank the church that's in here now for keeping this building alive with a pulse, renovated and maintained, because I saw some pictures before they took the church and it was really bad. We hope you enjoyed part 1 of our series. If you're liking what you see, make sure to subscribe to Radically Colorado. We're releasing videos like this all the time.